Hello class and welcome to another lesson in operating systems beginning Linux. In this lesson we'll be covering bash commands. So overview for this lesson, we're going to cover command flags and arguments, and then of course some more file management commands. So as part of our introduction, a little bit of review. Remember the bash shell is a command line interpreter. What do we mean by interpreter? Well, that's just a program that reads and executes commands or code line by line. So bash is both a shell and an interpreter. When you type a command into the terminal, bash will interpret it, just like a person interprets language, and tell the operating system what to do. So one thing that it does rely on is on correct syntax. So you do need to follow the rules in order for the bash interpreter to understand what you're trying to do. So syntax is the set of rules that define how a command must be written so the interpreter can understand and execute those commands correctly. So the bash interpreter will read your input and it'll check if it follows the correct syntax. It's obviously not going to work if you don't write it correctly. Some common mistakes will be incorrect casing. So maybe you forgot to uppercase or lowercase something, typos, missing spaces, and other syntax mistakes can lead to errors. If the syntax is wrong, you'll get an error message. These error messages aren't always super helpful, but it's basically Bash trying its best to let you know what went wrong. So a reminder, if you're navigating the shell, some shortcuts on your keyboard, you can go up and down to navigate through old commands. You can move the cursor to modify your command, so left and right. You can copy and paste, and then you can autocomplete with tabs. So for example, if you're typing in the downloads folder, you just need to type in the first three letters and then hit tab and it should autocomplete that name for you. So file system, remember, that's just what organizes the directories and the files that they contain. And then of course, a directory, right? How do we locate it? We locate it using a path. So path is going to tell you the address, the location of that file or directory. So for an absolute path like this one, it's starting from the very beginning, the root. How do I know it's starting at the root? Because this path starts with a / with nothing else in front of it. So this is an absolute path, absolutely starting at the beginning. So the next folder is home, next folder is user, next folder is documents, and then inside the documents folder, we have a file called notes.txt. How do I know it's a file? Because it has a file extension, that .txt, PDF, PNG, whatever that file type is, it's always going to be denoted by that file extension. And then remember, there's absolute and relative paths. So fortunately, you don't have to type in the full location of a file. That'd be really tedious. You can just rely on relative paths. So relative paths, depending on where you're at, right, you can just start with wherever you're trying to navigate within that current directory. Remember to throw pwd right around so that you can do that sanity check and make sure you're in the right place, or at least in the place you think you are. Some special path symbols that we've kind of briefly introduced but not really covered. So remember, if you throw the / at the beginning of your path, then you're defining an absolute path because you're starting from the very beginning, the root. The home directory, there's a little shortcut to denote the home directory for the current user, and that's with the tilde sign. I call it the squiggly. So for example, if you want to go to your documents folder, you could do squiggly / documents. So this will work for any user. Just remember, it's going to be pointing to the current user. So no, if you're Alice, it's not going to point to Bob's home directory. It's going to point to your /home /Alice directory. And then if you want to make a reference to the current directory, you could do /. Very different than the slash. So / homework, right? If I get rid of the dot there, it's going to think it's a root directory, and homework is not part of the root. So that would definitely give you an error. So /, very different than slash. Definitely test that out, right, on your own on the terminal. And then parent directory, if you want to move up a directory, very common command is cd /. You can stack these around as well if you want to keep moving up and up in the directories. For example, cd / will move up 2 levels, 2 parents up in directories.